Coming Iraqi artillery had struck an oil refinery inside Saudi Arabia. It seemed that everyone from the town of Khafji had decided it was time to leave, including the police and the fire service. Above all, the soldiers were waiting for the possibility of spies. A team from Kilo 33 platoon set off to check the state of the communities the Saudis had left behind. On the outskirts of Khafji, a clear sight of the fire raging in the damaged oil plant. We were now just 6 miles from the Kuwait border. The sergeant and his team stopped to survey the ground ahead. They'd had reports of figures seen on rooftops, possibly enemy artillery spotters helping to guide in the Iraqi shells. Overhead, American helicopters kept a brotherly watch on their comrades below. We're entering the Badlands now, the soldier told his men as they drove through the archway into a deserted town. Khafji had been known as a safe hideout for Iraqi terrorists, but now it appeared no more than a ghost town. 2 hours of Iraqi shelling early this morning had left few obvious marks of damage, but every shop was shut, not a soul was on the street. In the eerie silence, evidence of a panic-stricken evacuation, we came across this car abandoned in the middle of a crossroads. Team Kilo 33 found no sign of hostile forces, though, and no reports of injuries in Khafji. For the moment, the Iraqi artillery has stopped raining down on the deserted town of Khafji. They have had several hits, though the only serious damage is to the oil refinery. What the Iraqis really seem to have achieved is just to drive away the local people. As the oil blaze blackened the border skies, the Allied forces still had not chosen to return fire. Jeremy Thompson, ITN, close to the Kuwaiti border.
Operation Desert Storm has created a storm of protest here at home, and police are bracing for violence. Eric Green is live at the San Francisco Federal Building with that. Eric?
All right, Terry, we were here a couple of days ago, the day of the deadline, the 15th. It is now the 17th, a few hours into the war in the Middle East, and the crowd is nowhere as big as it was a couple of days ago or yesterday. We're talking about several hundred people rather than several thousand. There are no streams of people walking on the streets blocking traffic. Traffic is moving just fine as far as we can tell. A few minutes ago, we were up near the front of the Federal Building. We can tell you that the people were chanting, and it was basically the same old rhetoric. The U.S. should not be going to war, one, because it's not doing well financially. They shouldn't be investing in a war. And as you can see, that people are trying to stop workers in the Federal Building from going to work. They say they want to stop the government from working, so to make their point. And a lot of people say they are taking the day off from work themselves. There are some people here who are your basic long neckers, rubberneckers. They just want to basically see what's going on today. Talked to one student. He's not necessarily for the protesters. He just wanted to come down here and see what was going on. He called it an education for himself. But there was a skirmish with police a little bit ago, and what was happening, it looked like a protester kind of provoked an officer. As best we could tell, the officers in riot gear with their nightsticks came forward to the barricades, and basically there was a big shouting match, a little bit of pushing, but as far as we could tell, nobody has been arrested. We were just given a flyer a little bit ago. We all know that the Bay Bridge was shut down for the last couple of days at times in both directions. This is a flyer. It is calling for a peace in. It says, use our cars, drive onto the bridges, and stop. So they're not necessarily asking people to lay down in the front of the entrance as a block. They want people to drive onto the bridge and stop. So this is something we should probably look for today. Terry.
Thank you, Eric. Things just continue happening. We'll expect more reports from you later on. And of course, Steve, things are developing quickly. They continue to, and we'll try and keep on top of them and bring you things as they happen.
We certainly will. As Eric was saying, there are other protests going on around the Bay Area this morning, and that is affecting the morning commute. So let's go now at 7:15 to South Castaneda and Metro traffic. Sal?
All right, to Steve, northbound 101 right near Vermont Street, we had protesters, about 100 of them over the overpass, drop flares onto the freeway, and of course traffic came to an absolute stop. They had the lanes blocked. They actually closed the freeway for a while. We had Jerry Gordon flying around. Jerry, are the protesters gone?
Well, they're off the freeway, that's for sure. The CHP apparently was able to reason with them. We didn't see any violence being used to clear the freeway, but it was totally blocked at the Vermont Street overcrossing, and traffic was backed up to Silver Avenue, but it has been opened since then. They opened it a few minutes ago, and traffic is proceeding north on the James Lick Freeway. Now, we have another problem, though. On the other side, the southbound side, there's an accident north of Vermont Street in lane number 2 in the southbound direction. That's got the San Francisco Central Freeway backed up to Oak Street and the Skyway backed up to before the 80-101 split. Sal?
All right, and as Jerry said, northbound 101 is backed up well beyond Candlestick. If you're coming into the city, give yourself plenty of extra time, and we'll keep on the beat for you. At 7:16, I'm Sal Castaneda with Metro Traffic. Steve?
Thanks, Al. Commuter traffic seems to be the main target for anti-war protesters. Late last night, they shut down the Bay Bridge in both directions.
Bush, you tried it. Now we're gonna riot. Bush, you tried it. Now we're gonna riot.
The crowd poured by the thousands from San Francisco streets onto the span, breaking through police barricades and torching more than one police car. Motorcycle police faced off with protesters for more than 2 hours before they could regain control of the bridge. And we'll be back with more news in just a moment.
Every state of the nation, the red, white, and blue. We're bringing the blockbuster difference to you. The newest release is the biggest selection. America, we're coming in your direction. Show us your cards, America!
Millions of Americans show us their cards every week, and we show them a lot.
Wow, what a difference! Blockbuster Video, wow!
You're going to be away from home on business, working long hours in a strange city. So why not call Alamo and reserve a new Cadillac Seville for just $49.49 a day with unlimited free mileage. Anywhere in California, a Cadillac Seville for $49.49 a day will make life on the road a little more bearable.
If you want the longest, most convenient office hours of any major California bank, head for Wells Fargo. Our doors are open 9 to 6 every weekday and open from 9 a.m. on Saturdays. So if you want a bank that'll be open when you need it, head for the outfit with the longest hours and climb aboard.
Much obliged, sir. Anytime.
Wells Fargo comes through with the longest hours.
If your heart was as tender as prime rib, I'd thank the stars above. 'Cause I'd be your hot potato, and we'd fit just like a glove. All our troubles would be a la carte. Call us the Blue Plate Special of Love.
Presenting the best of Black Angus, our complete prime rib dinner, all for just $7.95. But only while it lasts.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the Persian Gulf War. We're going now to CNN Live.
Company's headquarters. We saw some satellite dishes and microwave transmission dishes used to get telephone calls from Baghdad to other parts of Iraq and the outside world that seemed to be melted. They were crumpled like a giant hand had come and just sort of crushed these things. And so it was quite a sight. And also there were bricks and mortar missing from the side of the building. It was almost as if what had happened was that something had come into the building from the side rather than from the top, as a bomb would have done, indicating, at least the possibility of some sort of a missile coming sideways. In the Karada district of Baghdad, which is the area where the United States Embassy is located and many of the shopping areas of this town, we saw a microwave transmission tower that was destroyed, and the other buildings around it had some windows broken, but not major destruction there. All the stores on the streets of Baghdad are closed today. We saw one fire truck as we drove by. There were groups of 5 or 6 soldiers standing on some street corners, but not every one. And at the United States Embassy, we passed by as we used to do once a day to get a little briefing back when the embassy was open. The Iraqi guard who was outside recognized us and waved. And we saw lots of glass on the street. We saw some in the area of this telephone company building that seemed to have had the most damage that we were able to see in the downtown area. We saw some houses, what looked like residential housing next to this building, where the bricks had just crumpled and the buildings were flattened almost. So there was a lot of damage to the houses next to this telephone company building. Crossing the Tigris River, one of the beautiful rivers in the world, we saw no visible damage to anything on the river. And so that's our report, Bobby. It's quiet here tonight. We're hoping it's going to maintain this quiet for some time into the future. But based on our experience last night, we're certainly a little tense at this moment. Bobby?
All right, John, we get a little worried about you when we don't hear from you for quite some time. Try to get some sleep, and thanks, Bob.
Let us get the perspective now of the military analyst.
You've been watching live coverage from CNN. You were listening to John Holloman, who is, of course, a CNN reporter who is in Baghdad at a hotel there, along with Peter Arnett and Bernard Shaw. Those three have been reporting live from Baghdad, the only reporters that we know of who have been really on top of the whole scene. Now let's go to New York, where Fox reporter Dick Oliver is standing by with the latest word from the United Nations. Dick?
Good morning. The latest developments here at the UN are as follows. Just before yesterday's airstrike, President Bush placed a call to United Nations Secretary General Perez de Cuellar, tipping him that American aircraft and missiles would soon be hitting Baghdad. So that tip came in here earlier before the strike hit. Then last night, Perez de Cuellar held a meeting of the Security Council. It was a private meeting, no press and public allowed. After that meeting, Perez de Cuellar had this to say.
After all my efforts, after all the efforts of so many countries and so many personalities, that we are now facing a war. And then at this very moment, only 1 hour and a half after the hostilities, I am not well informed. I have not of details of what has happened. But I think it's for me to express my deep sorrow because of as Secretary General of the United Nations, the peace organization, I can only be saddened by the beginning of hostilities.
Now, we understand at that private Security Council meeting that the United States Ambassador to the UN, Thomas Pickering, made a promise to the other members. He said that the United States would stop its pounding of Iraq as soon as the Iraqis pulled out unconditionally from Kuwait. As far as today is concerned, we're going to probably get another private meeting of the Security Council, but nothing public. As far as the United Nations itself is concerned, up the street, you can see the police are preparing for what is being billed as a major demonstration by peace demonstrators. As many as 5,000 expected. The barricades are in place. That should happen within the next hour or two. Dick Oliver, Fox News, back to you at Mornings on 2.
Thank you very much, Dick. And now we'll go to Washington, D.C., and Bureau Chief Andy Castles with the latest from the Capitol. Andy?
Terry and Steve, we took a very informal and admittedly unscientific survey up here on Capitol Hill this morning and determined indeed that sentiment seems to be running with President Bush. But surprisingly, that sentiment is not running at a fever pitch. As a matter of fact, the people in the congressional offices that we visited this morning said they received far more calls last week at this time before Congress debated the war question.
The morning headlines told it all. As sun broke over the Capitol, there was the realization that what had to be done was being done.
Good morning, Island Inspector's Office. Can I help you, please?
And lawmakers, still weary from events of the night before, arrived ready once again to support the president.
I think that support for the president today, the morning after, will be a lot easier than those of us who gave our support in the close 52-47 vote last Saturday.
The Congress convened its first post-war session minutes ago, just after learning from the Pentagon that war indeed has its price.
Again, I'll yield. There have been casualties, and there are likely to be more casualties.
By day's end, lawmakers are expected to vote a resolution of presidential support. Congress and the administration pledging to see this through to conclusion.
The operation will continue until we achieve our objectives of forcing Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait and implementing the United Nations Security Council resolutions.
Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, there are just a whole host of events taking place here in Washington today, most of them official, some of them unofficial. Among those unofficial, President Bush at this time, along with the Reverend Billy Graham, going across the Potomac River over to Fort Myer, the Army post, where they together will pray for those involved in this operation. We'll continue to keep you posted and continue to report live from here in Washington. Terry, Steve?
Thank you, Andy. And of course, we're going to be back with much more news in just a moment as Mornings on 2 continues.
Okay, all right. My definition of success is size 8. A size 6? 4. A firm chin. Somebody called me skinny. Success is a 23-inch waist. Arms that don't go wiggle woggle.
You can sit in a chair and have room for your purse beside you.
That's success.
I have no hips.
You what?
Success is losing weight with Jenny Craig.
Yeah!
Hey, Jenny, it worked.
Join our new Success program for only a $79 service fee. Call 1-800-76-JENNY.
Washington apples. They're as good as you've heard.
Hurry in for Circuit City Super Sale and save with super low prices on super appliances. Find super savings on top brand washers, like this 2-speed Whirlpool, now a low $288. This extra large capacity Hot Point, now only $349. And this deluxe Maytag complete with handy lint filter, yours now for just $419. Hurry in for super savings. It's the Super Sale now at Circuit City.
Welcome to Circuit City, where service is state of the art.
Sure, Quaker Natural tastes great for breakfast, but I can't always wait till breakfast.
Don't wait for the taste of Quaker Natural. It tastes too good for breakfast alone. Swirl it in yogurt, pour it on fruit, top it on top of an ice cream cone.
Quaker 100% natural. How can you wait for all those crunchy clusters of oats and honey, almonds and raisins?
I can't.
Don't wait for the taste of Quaker Natural.
We're rejoining CNN for another live report now.
Using a military force against Iraq.
Senator Mitchell, Speaker Foley, could you first give us, please, A, how you feel academically about the way things have gone so far, and B, how you feel emotionally about where we are now, about what has happened?
Well, I don't know what you mean about feeling academically. I don't have any academic feelings. I have genuine feelings. And emotion. We are, of course, pleased at the low rate of casualties. We hope and pray, as I know does the President and all of our officials, that the loss of innocent civilian life will be at a minimum. We have no information on that. We had a sincere and genuine debate over policy in the Congress last week. A decision was made by the majority. The President has acted pursuant to that decision. And all of us now hope that there will be a swift resolution of this conflict. I have said many times that I do not believe there could be any doubt as to the outcome of armed conflict between the United States and Iraq. I've said many times, believed and do believe that the United States will prevail. And we hope that the outcome is swift and with the minimum of damage and loss of life, and we will join in full support of the men and women of our armed forces who are displaying such courage and skill.
Will there be a resolution? Yes, there will be a resolution to that effect, but I would agree absolutely with what Senator Mitchell has said. Okay. And the Congress will and has formed total ranks behind our armed forces, and
why do you need another resolution?
Well, I think the members probably desired to express that, and I think that's not inappropriate this time to demonstrate that regardless of the debate last week on the matter of policy, that the Congress stands behind the armed services in the hope that this can be quick, decisive, with a minimum loss of life.
Congressman Foley, one last question. Were you satisfied with the
notification you got, the advance
The notification by the President was in accordance with the requirements of the act that was passed by Congress.
We just heard the Democratic and Republican leaders of
The Democratic and Republican leaders in Washington, D.C. commenting on the war in the Persian Gulf. Information about Operation Desert Storm is trickling in piece by piece this morning, making it difficult to determine what is fact and what is fear. Charles Crawford tries to sort through that confusion.
The Pentagon will not comment on Kuwaiti radio reports that Allied forces are advancing toward the Kuwaiti border from positions in Saudi Arabia. Also unconfirmed, reports that a number of Iraqi tank troops in Kuwait have begun to surrender. What is known is the air assault on targets in Iraq continues. Allied warplanes in control of the sky scored direct hits on the Iraqi Defense Ministry in Baghdad. One wing of the building is reported completely destroyed. Another wing is on fire. Despite his official backing for the U.S.-led alliance, Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev issued a downbeat response to the outbreak of war.
We express our deep sorrow that military confrontation could not be averted. So I'm ready to emphasize one more time, we did everything possible to avert the conflict.
Iranian leader Hashemi Rafsanjani also expressed regrets. The official Iranian news agency quotes Rafsanjani as saying, Iran did everything it could to prevent war. And the PLO says the events in the Gulf mark a black day for world history and is calling on Arab leaders to oppose what it calls the American-European Zionist alliance that attacked Iraq. Perhaps the most favorable response to Operation Desert Storm is coming from the top 4 U.S. oil companies. Mobil, Chevron, Unocal, and Conoco announced price freezes on gasoline shortly after the war began. Charles Crawford reporting.
With the Persian Gulf War comes the fear of terrorism. In fact, a flight at Oakland International Airport was delayed yesterday afternoon due to security reasons. The airport operations manager reported that there was suspicious movement by 2 passengers aboard the plane, and officials evacuated the aircraft. The FBI was called, but after a search of the plane, officials determined that there was no cause for alarm. A bomb threat aboard an Italian jetliner bound for Rome caused a forced landing in Los Angeles last night. Airport police say Alitalia Airlines received a phone call at about 5 o'clock that a bomb was planted in the baggage. Passengers disembarked and a complete search of the plane and baggage turned up nothing. It is unknown if the threat is related to the war in the Gulf. And in the Bay Area, here's the phone number if you need information on new airport security measures at SFO and San Jose airports. It's 415-478-0999. That's 478-0999. Some changes include no curbside check-in and more towing for parking violators. BART has also increased police patrols. And that's the latest from the news desk. Let's go back to Steve.
Thank you, Derek. 26 minutes before 8 o'clock. And security against terrorism is on most people's minds now that the war has broken out. And here to talk about that is a security expert, private investigator Gordon Bloyer of Triad Consultants. Welcome to Mornings on 2. Gordon, most of what we've been hearing about potential terrorist threats have been happening in Europe. Is there concern for it here on American soil?
Well, I want to emphasize the concern is minimal. The FBI said today and yesterday that there are terrorists in the country, but the threat is minimal. But everyone should exercise caution. If you see things in the airport, you've heard about what they're doing at the airport. If you see a bag in a Muni, in BART, that's left unattended, tell somebody about it. If you see a car abandoned in a yellow zone in front of an area that might be a secure area, the PG&E building, somewhere that would be a target for terrorism, tell somebody about it. We must be actively involved.
I have to follow up on something. If the FBI knows there are terrorists here, I mean, how do they know that? Do they know who the terrorists are? And obviously, why don't they just go and arrest them?
Well, I think they know it just because they know that people are coming into the country and they know a certain percentage of those people may be involved in terrorism. Unlike Europe, the United States has much better security. We have a tougher time for them to get away. I talked to an FBI agent yesterday, and it's very difficult for a terrorist to get out of this country. We don't have the complicity involved with the people here. One of the concerns I have right now is that many people who are out there demonstrating and involved in the peace movement are a potential target to be involved with the terrorists without them wanting to.
Unwittingly.
They are not, you know, the majority of the people out there are demonstrating for a cause that they believe in, but they can be used right now because involved with them could be someone who is a terrorist. San Francisco could be a major target. We have many military installations and many strategic things involved in the Bay Area. So we could be a target. But I want to emphasize the threat is minimal. People should not panic, but they should be observant.
They should be aware that it could possibly happen.
Right.
Where should they stay away from? Are there areas that people should just not go to? Obviously military installations.
People who are concerned, and again, the concern should be low, but the targets are not going to be civilian targets. They're going to be military targets. So you should stay away from the military reservations, Presidio, Treasure Island. But again, the concern is minimal. You should stay away from those areas. In Europe, they targeted discos where they knew the GIs were going to be. That would be another target in the area here. If you know that military are hanging out in a place and you know where they're going, if you are concerned, but I emphasize only if you are concerned, stay away from them.
I'm curious, you said that you thought that the terrorist targets would be military targets. Terrorism is not discretionary. They will certainly go after civilians if the opportunity is there.
They will take out airliners and things like that, but primarily they're going to try to create a situation that is total confusion. If they were going to target an area that would be the most damaged to the Bay Area, Bay Bridge would be an excellent example, would solve two problems. You have the Treasure Island, access to and from, and it wouldn't take much. We saw with the earthquake where just one section of the bridge and you've cut off traffic. The Bay Area is very vulnerable. You only have the Bay Bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, and some highways coming in. We could be cut off very easily.
Okay. Gordon Bloyer, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Mornings on 2.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more news in just a few moments.
I spent the last 20 years trying to buy clothes to hide my size, and now I'm showing them off.
These tapes really put great biceps on me. I even show off to my husband. Say, look at that, honey.
You, too, can get in shape in only 8 weeks with the Sports Illustrated Super Shape Up program, a free video workout system sponsored by Diet Pepsi. Taste the right one. It features Sports Illustrated swimsuit models Elle Macpherson, Rachel Hunter, and Cheryl Teagues. Call now. You'll start off with Stretch and Strengthen with Elle Macpherson, which will have you feeling stronger and more flexible. Then move up to Body Sculpting with Rachel Hunter to help tighten up those stubborn areas that don't go away. And finally, Aerobic Interval Training with Cheryl Teagues, which helps your body burn calories and fat more efficiently. Call for the Super Shape Up program, all for 3 monthly payments of $19.95 each, or use your credit card. With payment, you'll get free equipment, hand weights, and a jump rope. So call now.
My clothes were fitting looser and looser, and I started feeling real good about myself.
The anatomy of an expensive soup. Gourmet Pride. Gourmet Pride gives you lots more than the low-price soups. More white meat chicken, more shrimp, more beef, more fresh-tasting vegetables, and more noodles than even cup of noodles. It's not surprising that people are willing to pay more for Gourmet Pride, but now they don't have to. Thanks to Gourmet Pride's new 25-cent coupon, Gourmet Pride really isn't expensive after all.
From the beginning, one thing stood out. This kid could win. An inside look at a legend. Joe Montana, a winner. Sunday at 9:30 on Channel 2.
At Midas, we do break work, not guesswork. That's why we give you a good price after we give you a free inspection. Then we spell out exactly what you're going to need and exactly what it's going to cost. No surprises. We road test the job and guarantee every brake shoe and pad for as long as you own your car. Sure, we want your business, but not the expense of your safety. Hey, nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
Check the sports section in the Sunday newspaper for money-saving coupons.
Welcome back to Mornings on 2. We are now a nation at war. Let's go to Terry, who has the latest on Operation Desert Storm. Terry?
Yes, Desert Storm is on, and it is not letting up. President Bush issued a statement from the White House early this morning saying he is very pleased with Operation Desert Storm so far. That despite reports, of course, that at least one American plane was shot down in combat. The Pentagon says Iraqi claims of 14 downed American jets is simply not true. Mark Leff has more on the overnight developments.
The first unconfirmed reports of casualties among the Allied forces attacking Iraq and Kuwait came several hours after the first wave of pilots returned to reload. Although some U.S. pilots told reporters everybody who took off came back, Baghdad Radio claims Iraq shot down 14 Allied planes over Iraq and Kuwait. The U.S. Defense Department at first called that claim ridiculous, but later indicated there may have been Allied losses. State broadcasters in both Jordan and Iran reported Iraqi gunners hit one U.S. F-15 whose pilot bailed out into the Persian Gulf. Aircraft from at least 5 countries are reportedly involved in the raids. Britain's defense minister would not confirm reports that one British Tornado fighter bomber crashed after being hit by Iraqi fire.
We don't know. We know that it was an engine fire. It's a perfectly fair question to ask because it may have been one not due to enemy action or it may have been caused by enemy action.
What is over Kuwait or over into...
we're not talking about the actual sphere of operations or what targets it was involved in at this stage.
There was heavy anti-aircraft fire when the air raids began over Baghdad more than 13 hours ago. And there's word from Paris that at least one French pilot may have been slightly injured over Kuwait when Iraqi ground fire hit 4 French Jaguar aircraft going after missiles at a military airfield. The French defense minister says the entire 12-plane squadron did land safely. There have been several reports of Iraqi forces firing across the border into Saudi Arabia, hitting a storage tank at a refinery near Khafji. The British Broadcasting Corporation reported shells fired from Kuwait into Saudi Arabia caused an unknown number of Allied casualties. 8.5 hours after President Bush went on television to announce the attack and to say the world could wait no longer, the president told reporters that things were going well. Mark Leff reporting.
Meanwhile, Saddam Hussein says the mother of all battles has begun. In an early morning radio address, he pledged victory for his troops and hellfire for President Bush.
On the 16th of January, the treacherous foes and Bush, the Satan, has perpetrated his crime. He and the criminal Zionism. And the great battle has been initiated, the mother of all battles, between the triumphant truth with the support of God and the evil pushed by Satan, which will be beaten eventually, God willing.
Washington is not listening. Early this morning, Sam Nunn, head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, insisted it would be Saddam Hussein who takes the fall.
Secretary Cheney and I talked early this morning, and he felt the operation had gone extremely well, but he also cautioned that it's not over. It's continuing. We still have some continuing challenges and dangers out there, but in my view, we have achieved our initial strategic goals. One was to protect Israel and, of course, the cities of Saudi Arabia from the Scud missiles that could have had chemicals on them. That was important, of course, from a humanitarian point of view, but also from the point of view of not letting the coalition come apart because of Israel's involvement. So the relationship between the United States and Israel has been crucial here, and I would say that it's been handled extremely well. The other strategic goal was, of course, to control the air, because if we can control the air, and I think we are pretty much in control of the air now, then I think it's just a question of time in terms of being able to destroy an awful lot of the ground assets.
Senator Nunn is expected to join the president for a prayer service on Capitol Hill within the hour. And we'll be back with more news in just a moment.
Today's Bay Area forecast calls for mostly sunny weather and near record high temperatures, and that sunny weather should continue through tomorrow.
With so many pet foods to choose from, which one do you trust to keep your pet healthy? Listen to the following message, and I'll be back with an important free offer.
A lot of pet foods promise good health, but just one has the unsurpassed nutrition, quality ingredients, and proven performance that is recommended by veterinarians for good health above all the rest. Hill's Science Diet. Science Diet is recommended by veterinarians 3 to 1 over any other brand and fed by most veterinarians to their own pets. Science Diet, because the first choice of veterinarians should be your choice, too.
I'd like to send you a free sample of the food veterinarians recommend 3 to 1 over any other. Science Diet. Call 1-800-452-4600 and receive this free sample pack with canine or feline formula. Science Diet. Because the first choice of veterinarians is my choice. And it should be your choice, too.
A lot of men want to know more about Rogaine with minoxidil. If you're one of them, I have good news for you. Now there's a brochure prepared especially for men who want answers to their questions about Rogaine. Simply call 1-800-876-7351, and Upjohn will be glad to send it to you, absolutely free. Now, once you've looked at it, you'll probably want to schedule an appointment with a doctor. After all, only your doctor can prescribe Rogaine. And if you call right now, Upjohn will also send you the names of doctors in your area who can help you decide if Rogaine is right for you. You'll also receive a $10 certificate as an incentive to see your doctor. For your free brochure that gives you the complete story on Rogaine with minoxidil and your $10 certificate, call toll-free 1-800-876-7351. So what are you waiting for? Make the call today.
Protesters are disrupting life around the federal building in San Francisco. Eric Green is live with an update. Eric?
Terry, it was ominously quiet up until about 45 seconds ago. A man was trying to get into the building to go to work. Of course, we have PACE activists here trying to prevent anybody from going to work at the federal building. As soon as the man was trying to get into the building, a number of protesters came, surrounded him. Then a chant went up saying, "No violence." Anytime anybody has tried to get into the building today, the crowd has been chanting, "No violence." In this case, while everybody else had been going into the building, this was the first time we saw somebody actually turn around and go away from the building. Now, a few minutes ago, it was ominously quiet here. The crowd today is not as big as it was a couple of days ago or yesterday before war started in the Persian Gulf, at least in the morning hours. We all know it happened last night a lot around here and along the Bay Bridge and on some of the highway overpasses. But right now, the chant is, "No war, no way, no one goes to work today," and they've also amended that to say, "No one goes to school today." There are a number of students here, a number of people who are supposed to be at work. They've decided to take the day off. There are a number of students here who say they're supposed to be in school, but they think this is a little more of an education in American history right now, and they thought it would be okay if they were a little late to school. Let me show you a flyer that was distributed a little bit ago. It says it's a piece in "Use Your Car and blockade the city." What they're looking to do is block at least one major artery into the city today. They want people to drive onto either the Bay Bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, Highway 280, 101, or around BART, and basically stop traffic. They're saying if you're on a bridge, just stop your car, maybe get out, lay in the street. This is something they want to do along rush hour, so it could be happening right about now. It might happen in the afternoon hours. I'm sure the police are getting hold of this flyer also. Who knows what's going to happen later, but we'll be here covering it. But right now it's a little bit quiet, and the chanting is going on, and it's a little bit reminiscent of a pep rally night right now, but it's a lot more serious than that. Terry.
Thank you very much, Eric, for that. Now let's go to Steve and see what's happening around the Bay.
Well, thank you, Terry. It is now 10 minutes to 8, and as Eric just told you, the commute is of great concern this morning. Let's go to Sal Castaneda in Metro Traffic and see how things are going. Sal?
All right, Steve, things are very hectic, but I think we're making a connection with Jerry Gordon. He's going to tell us the latest on San Francisco. Jerry, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. We have a report from the CHP of protesters marching to First and Harrison. They suspect that they're trying to get to the on-ramp of the Bay Bridge, but we're circling the area. I haven't seen protesters there. We have a lot of rumors, and we get to places this morning, and there's only a handful of protesters, maybe 5 of them, and apparently a lot of people are calling the CHP with false reports, but there are a lot of protesters, several hundred around the Federal Building in San Francisco, and they blocked out the streets around the Federal Building. Polk, Larkin, Golden Gate. Golden Gate is closed at Van Ness. barred by protesters. There doesn't seem to be any violent action going on down there, but stay away from that area in San Francisco. Meantime, traffic flowing through San Francisco on the skyways, east and westbound 80, no problem at all. The Central Freeway is backed up to Oak Street because of an earlier accident on southbound 101. Traffic coming off the Bay Bridge is at the speed limit this morning getting into the city. Sal?
All right, and we also have a very big police presence on all of the bridges, especially at the toll plaza of the Bay Bridge. We have police cars lined up there. They're not going to let you get anywhere near the on-ramps if you're on foot, so just be careful. Westbound Bay Bridge is moderate into San Francisco. At 7:51, I'm Sal Castaneda with Metro Traffic. Steve?
Thank you, Sal. We'll be back with more news in just a moment.
That's him, huh? Company stop salesman.
Numero uno. They say he can sell snow in a snowstorm.
Real Mr. Personality.
The guy is a dynamo.
Even the most important dynamic executive can feel downright unimportant.
Miss! Oh, miss!
On a bad flight.
Looks like he's been working non-stop.
Never lets up. That's why he's making the big bucks.
Next trip, try Alaska Airlines. We try to treat everybody like they're somebody.
Nobody beats Home Depot. Nobody. Home Depot will beat any price, any store, any identical item, any day. And low prices are just the beginning. We feature the complete line of Dutch Boy interior and exterior paints. And because Home Depot will mix the color you want absolutely free, it's easy to get the right look.
When you're with us at Home Depot, you feel right at home.
Ready to go to Sizzler?
Yeah, we don't want to miss that deal.
Precisely. Let's take the bike.
The bike?
This deal's too big to miss. We'll cut through traffic and fly like the wind.
A hearty half-pound sirloin steak, freshly tossed salad, and build your own sundae. A complete meal, only $7.99. So get going. Sizzler. Buffet Court and Grill, a restaurant within a restaurant.
So, we're going to take your car or what?
Ford, profiles in quality, reliability.
The quality of today's Fords, Lincolns, and Mercurys is no accident. It's engineered into every car and truck we build. We bump before you bump. We open and close. We brake, we shake, we get in and get out. We freeze, we start. When your goal is to build the highest quality cars and trucks in the world, you don't do it any other way.
At Ford, Mercury, and Lincoln, quality is job one.
The war is having a big impact on the world's financial markets, but it isn't the bad news that we expected. Brian Banmiller is live at the Pacific Stock Exchange in San Francisco with the latest. Brian.
Good morning, Terry. You know, for the past few weeks, the markets have certainly been shaky around the world. In fact, trading last week was very minimal as the world waited to see if war was going to break out in the Middle East. And, of course, the stock market hates uncertainty. And after the war started last night, that uncertainty was removed. So markets around the world have actually been picking up greatly this morning. Now, we were at the Pacific Stock Exchange for the opening, and this was the scene at the opening bell. Now, both the stock markets in New York and here on the Pacific Stock Exchange observed a moment of silence. That was 1 full minute. So the markets technically did not open at 6:30 and 9:30, but 6:31 and 9:31. And the executives told me that what they were doing was observing a moment of prayer for all our troops that are based in the Middle East. But it also looked a little bit here at the Pacific Stock Exchange like the calm before the storm as active trading started. We spoke with Lee Corrins, who's the chairman of the Pacific Stock Exchange, to get his mood of the markets at the open.
Well, the initial news from the Mideast is very positive, and the orders coming into exchanges all around the country appear to reflect that positive attitude, and we're seeing an initial flow of buy orders. The investing public, I think, has been on the sidelines anticipating that something would happen in the Mideast, and they are reflecting their optimism this morning by entering buy orders in almost every security that's listed, both here and in New York and in other exchanges.
Do you think that the circuit breakers will come into effect?
It appears that they may well come into effect today because The initial indication in the S&P and individual issues seems to be that we probably will have at least a 50-point advance, if not more.
Now, the reason why he mentions a 50-point advance or more is that circuit breakers now take effect. Since the '87 crash in New York, they instituted circuit breakers, which means if there is too much institutional trading, too fast, the market simply slows down to absorb it. And in fact, interestingly enough, that's also been done in the oil markets today, or the possibility could be done today. Now, the Dow Jones right now, responding to early trading, we see the Dow Jones presently is up 83 points. The latest is 2592. So it is showing a strong rally, which was anticipated early. And the reason for that was the Nikkei index in Tokyo, the stock market in Tokyo yesterday, rose dramatically. Now, in initial trading, when bombing began, the Nikkei actually dropped 250 points, but then it rose. And when it closed last night, it was up over 1,000 points to close at over 23,000. Now, to put that in perspective to what we call the Dow Jones in America, that's equivalent to, it was the 10th best day in record, and it's equivalent to a tremendous rise of almost 5 points in the Dow Jones. Now, I talked to some traders in Tokyo last night, right after they closed, and what they said was the Japanese traders considered war to be already over. There was a tremendous amount of optimism. Now, that optimism also spread around the world. When you got to London, the London market was up 3%. Germany was up. And so the stock markets were reacting positively. Now, on the other side, oil markets have been down all around the world. They opened in Singapore, where oil was down. That was benchmark British crude that was down. So we can expect the oil markets in New York perhaps to go down by a number of dollars during the day. And, of course, we will follow that for you. One other item, gold dropped dramatically, down $20 at the open this morning. And that's because there seems to be some stability. World markets are telling Washington that we're seeing some positive action in the Middle East. And, Terry, I think we're going to see more stability in the markets today, and we could even see a mini boom.
Of course, Secretary of Defense Cheney warns us not to be overly optimistic.
Well, that's a good point, Terry. And the fact is, you know, the markets, it was fascinating last night in the newsroom to watch how quickly markets reacted to good news. Well, of course, they also react to bad news. If this thing becomes protracted, the markets will settle down. I think what you have right now are people looking for a profit right now in the markets, and that will shake itself out during the day. And I think the Secretary is right, and it should apply to the markets. Caution is the watchword right now.
All right. Thank you very much, Brian. And, of course, Operation Desert Storm is going well. That's how President Bush put it to a reporter this morning. And that's how American fighter pilots perceived it last night when they came back to base from their first strike. Wolf Blitzer reports.
As U.S. Air Force F-15 Eagles returned to their bases in Saudi Arabia, Pentagon officials said they were very pleased by the initial word from military commanders on the scene.
I will simply say that the preliminary reports we have received in terms of the success of the operation, and that includes the possibility of casualties, have been very, very encouraging. The operation appears to have gone very well.
Cheney said hundreds of fighter bombers and other aircraft from the U.S., Britain, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait participated in the initial strike. Other officials said much of the Iraqi Air Force appeared to have been destroyed on the ground. They say very few Iraqi planes even managed to get off the ground to challenge the invading U.S. aircraft.
Well, the biggest thing I saw was one of the most fantastic fireworks demonstrations I've seen since 4th of July party years and years and years ago. This was tremendous. Baghdad was lit up like a Christmas tree. Looked like everything in downtown was, fireworks were going off, a lot of AAA impacts on the ground. I think we hit there just about the time we're 40 miles south is when they're pounding targets in Baghdad.
The purpose of our bombing facilities in the area of Baghdad is essentially to go after the command and control system of the Iraqi armed forces. And we're looking at principally military targets, command and control installations, air defense sites that could put our planes at risk, but they are militarily oriented targets.
Pentagon said it had no evidence that the Iraqis had managed to launch any of their Scud ballistic missiles. Privately, officials said all of the fixed-site Iraqi ballistic missile sites appeared to have been knocked out. And they say the U.S. and Allied air power also destroyed Iraq's nuclear and chemical weapons facilities. But some on Capitol Hill were cautious in their initial reaction to the optimistic assessment coming from the Pentagon.
I'm still skeptical. I mean, put me down as skeptical. I think that you're going to need a ground attack, that this thing is going to be weeks, not days. that we're still going to need, we're going to have some casualties here. In other words, don't let this optimism here, don't let it carry you away.
For Pentagon officials, though, word that the U.S. airstrikes crushed a big chunk of the elite Iraqi Republican Guard forces was especially encouraging. They say there are no immediate plans to move in U.S. ground forces into Kuwait. But if that is still necessary, the weakening of the Republican Guard should ease any such assault. Wolf Blitzer, the Pentagon.
As the Allied Air Armada unleashed its fury over the skies of Baghdad last night, 3 CNN network reporters watched and listened from a hotel window. Theirs were the lone voices from behind enemy lines. Here are some excerpts from their first-hand accounts.
Some are red, some are white. We can see explosions, airburst explosions from these weapons. Oh, now there's a huge fire that we've just seen that is due west of our position. And we just heard, whoa, holy cow. That was a large airburst that we saw. It was filling the sky with dust.
And I think, John, that airburst took out the telecommunications. Yeah. Now you may hear the bombs now. If you're still with us, you can hear the bombs now. They are hitting the center of this city. Crouched behind a window in here. We're about 3 miles from where the center of action at this point seems to be.
And there's a very bright flash at a refinery building. It appeared that there were several explosions at once near a refinery. I'm going to guess this refinery is 5 or so miles away.
I think what is most interesting to me, John, is that these bombs seem right on target. During the Vietnam War, there was a major problem with bombing targets in North Vietnam. Many bridges survived for years. Tonight, every bomb we've seen land seems to have hit something. They hit the refinery directly. They hit a communications tower directly.
It's very dark in Baghdad now. Most of the lights in downtown are out. The sounds that you hear are the sounds of the Iraqi anti-aircraft guns pointed skyward. We don't have any indication at all that these anti-aircraft guns have had much success.
There has been enormous activity, and now we hear planes actually going over here.
Yeah, well, I'll see if I can see anything. All right, there's a plane nearby. Bernie, you can see something?
Right, it's broken out on either side of us here at the hotel, and I'm just going to be quiet and let you listen.
What we can see, Peter and I, the refinery that we told you about is still being hit again, and we can hear jet planes flying overhead now, and anti-aircraft guns going up to attempt to hit those. And we can see some bright orange flashes off in the distance here on the horizon in Baghdad. And again, the sky is filled with tracers from the anti-aircraft weapons as they go up.
Yes, John, this is the heaviest raid so far, so close in.
And we see some bright flashes of light on the ground. And now due west of where we are. There's more fire going up. There's a bomb that has come down now. You'll probably hear the report at the refinery in just a minute. We saw the bomb come down. We saw the flash, and you just heard an explosion. And it was a big blast of bomb blast that came through this window. I'm going to back away from the window now. I'll still try to get a view for you. But that was a rough one for me. It was very far away, and I'm sure it was not dangerous, but it was the biggest blast of air that I have felt from a bomb so far.
You've been listening, of course, to CNN reporters Holloman, Arnett, and Shaw as we heard them yesterday afternoon as war began in Baghdad. And we have late word now that Iraqi officials have shut down CNN transmissions from Baghdad, so we probably will not be hearing from those reporters, at least not in the very near future. We'll be back with more news in just a moment.
Remember how FM radio used to be? Lots of different music and not a lot of commercials? Now there's a new station just like that, Double 99 FM. Great mellow rock that I haven't heard on the radio in years. They never talk over the music, and they always tell you the names of the songs. They call it Double 99 FM because it's 2 stations. In the North Bay, it's 98.9 FM, and in the South Bay, it's 99.1 FM. This is what radio's supposed to be. You should listen.
Ginger, miss me? I miss you.
Office Club knows you wouldn't want to miss a call from your best friend, and now you don't have to with Office Club's low prices on AT&T answering systems.
You know, Ginger, I'm glad I got you this AT&T answering machine.
This answering system 1323 is just $99.99, and this answering system telephone 1523 is just $129.99. So get to Office Club for an AT&T answering system now. There's nothing like the sound of the warm voice of a best friend.
New Scent Island by Windmere is the super fresh plug-in electric air freshening system that uses patented fragrance cartridges to freshen up to 30 days. Turn your home onto freshness with Scent Island by Windmere. Available at Service Merchandise.
If you or someone you love has been seriously injured in a car or motorcycle accident, the results can be devastating. At times like these, you need an attorney. Call the Injury Helpline. Talk to an attorney near you for free. One who will explain your legal rights and costs. There are no attorney fees unless you receive payment for your injuries. The insurance companies have attorneys working hard on their side, and so should you. Call 1-800-526-0005.
Welcome back to Mornings on 2. If you've been watching us this morning, obviously, we have separated ourselves from our normal format this morning, and the reason is the obvious one because of what is going on, the war in the Middle East. And now let's go to Terry for the latest on that. Terry.
Thanks, Steve. The U.S. and its allies are now engaged in their first full day of war with Iraq. After 3 waves of attacks on Saddam Hussein's kingdom, the Pentagon is reporting only 1 American casualty, an airman shot down by enemy forces. Britain, too, is reporting a loss. Officials say one of its 2-man fighter jets sent out to engage Iraq late yesterday has yet to return. The loss of life on the Iraqi side is not yet known. If a ground war breaks out, casualties on both sides are expected to skyrocket. Senator Sam Nunn says he hopes this war does not come to that.
We've got great ground forces out there, and they're ready to do their job, and they're already doing a lot. They're serving very well, and they're helping fix the enemy. They're, by maneuvering, I'm sure, they're helping channel the Iraqis into positions where we can hit them. But that would be very expensive and very, in terms of human life, I hope we can avoid it. The air power is overwhelming. We've never seen anything like this. This is a new era in the air battle, and we're doing extremely well. I hope that we will have, although you certainly can't predict it now, a psychological collapse on the other side. It can't be predicted, but we can hope and pray that happens.
Now let's go back to Steve for more.
Thank you, Terry. 9 minutes after 8 o'clock in the morning, we have reporter Dick Oliver standing by in New York live now with an update from outside the United Nations. Dick?
That's right, Steve. Here at the UN, it's once again watching and waiting for the developments in the Persian Gulf. Now, there are no formal Security Council meetings scheduled for today, although we have been told they might have another informal Security Council meeting. There was one held last night. And we are told that at that meeting of the Security Council, the United States ambassador to the UN, Thomas Pickering, made a promise to his colleagues on the Security Council, saying that he guaranteed the United States would stop the pounding, the punishment of Iraq once Iraq got out of Kuwait. And so the situation here is diplomacy has taken a back seat to the military action that's been going on in the Persian Gulf. The other factor here, last night we had a demonstration, almost spontaneous demonstration, about the time the news hit the wires and the television screens about the airstrike. About 5,000 people gathered in Times Square like days of old, looking at the zipper of the news going around the Times Square building. And as you can see, we're showing you now the barricades. A lot of police are prepared for a similar demonstration here later today. Now, that's about the situation here. Steve, I have something to tell you, though, on a much lighter note.
What's that, Dick?
Well, that's
if we can be late this morning, what is it?
Well, when you left New York for the coast, and of course we all miss you at Fox 5, there's something you left behind, and I thought I might send it out to you. Maybe you'd need it for this weekend.
I can't wait. What is it? Giants. No, I'm sorry, Dick. I have to break everybody's heart. I've pledged allegiance to the 49ers now. But I do... Okay, Dick. Thank you very much, Dick Oliver from New York. We'll be back with more news in just a few moments.
You probably knew The Good Guys is the best place for video and audio. But did you know The Good Guys is also the best place for cellular phones and cameras and telephones and home office equipment and even a wide variety of video games? The Good Guys, the best in audio and video and a lot more. We're The Good Guys. We've got to be good.
New project?
Yes, I'm in the process of choosing a dentist.
Have you called 1-800-DENTIST?
You can't get this kind of information from just one phone call. I've surveyed every dentist in a 3.5-mile radius, compiled data on their schooling, years in practice, special training, and I've narrowed it down to exactly who you just got from 1-800-DENTIST.
Find out for yourself how easy it can be. Call 1-800-DENTIST today.
In 13 cities in 10 countries across the Pacific, they're playing our song. United Airlines Royal Pacific Service, rededicated to giving you the service you deserve, halfway around the world. Come fly the friendly skies.
Every state of the nation, the red, white, and blue, we're bringing the blockbuster difference to you. The newest releases, the biggest selection. America, we're coming in your direction. Show us your cards, America.
Millions of Americans show us their cards every week, and we show them a lot.
Wow, what a difference. Blockbuster Video, wow.
Welcome back to Mornings on 2. Just moments ago, Iraqi TV released these pictures. Pictures of Saddam Hussein kneeling and praying in front of his military advisors. The image portrayed here is a far cry from the radio message he sent out to his former Arab brothers just hours earlier.
The criminals are not ashamed of themselves. And that criminal, the traitor, the custodian of the two holy mosques, and the traitor of the Islamic nation, who and his like, he means King Fahd, will rot in hell. He is a treacherous criminal, King Fahd. God is with us, dear brethren.
This morning, after surveying the damage to his kingdom, Saddam Hussein told his people not to give up. No one has gotten much sleep in Washington overnight, as everyone, of course, waits for the latest updates from the White House, the State Department, and the Pentagon. Andy Castles is live in our Washington bureau now with an update. Andy?
I guess you could say we're moving into Chapter 2 here, because before the day is over, Congress is expected to give the President its approval for last night's decision to attack. Now, of course, the vote taken today would simply be a formality, because you'll recall that last weekend Congress voted to give the President that authority. Unofficially this morning, members of Congress told me that they were really very relieved that things seemed to be going well. And before the day is over, they expect a personal briefing on the Pentagon plan.
It is one campaign, the air campaign, which has gone very well, and I can't tell you how proud I am of all of our airmen for what they've done in the last 14 hours. But it is just one part of a total campaign. The air campaign began last night and will continue to the end. Now, ground campaign does not necessarily mean that we're going to cross the border right away, just the positioning of troops. in various places, I consider part of the ground campaign, the overall campaign. The movement of amphibious forces in the Persian Gulf, I consider part of the overall campaign. And I would hope that the Iraqi leadership, the Iraqi military, who may be trying to follow all these events, should get greatly concerned about our ability not just to use one tool, but to use all the tools in the toolbox that we brought to this effort.
Now, about an hour and a half ago, Congress convened for their first post-war session. They recessed pretty quickly, however, until they sort out what the day's events are going to be. As we say, they are expected to come back into session and to vote approval of the presidential decision. We'll continue to follow the events here on Capitol Hill, and we'll keep you posted in these live reports.
All right. Thank you very much, Andy. Let's go back to Steve now.
Okay, Terry, thank you very much. And hey, these are difficult times for everyone, and let's see how difficult your commute is going to be this morning by going to Sal Castaneda and Metro Traffic. Sal?
All right, in San Francisco, northbound 101 is still backed up from Candlestick Park all the way around Hospital Curve. 280 is very heavy. Remember, there were protesters at one time blocking the Vermont Street off-ramp or the overcrossing. That's been taken care of a long time ago, but traffic is still very heavy. Leave early. Northbound 101 in San Jose, pretty much business as usual as you get into the Silicon Valley. And we also do have heavy traffic on northbound 280, but it's not any out of the ordinary. And near the Federal Building, that's something we don't have on the maps. Golden Gate, Turk, Polk, and Larkin are still closed in the area, those streets. But Bush Street seems like a good alternate into San Francisco. The muni bus lines are not affected. At 8:17, I'm Sal Castaneda with Metro Traffic. Steve?
Thank you, Sal. And we will be back with more news of the Persian Gulf in just a few moments.
Are we having orange juice with breakfast?
Daddy, of course we are.
Oh, these aren't the little glasses I'm used to.
Orange juice is good for you. Have a big glass.
Orange juice. It's got the vitamins, minerals, and taste that make you feel so good.
No bacon and eggs?
Nope. Bulgur wheat muffins.
100% pure, Florida quality orange juice. It makes you feel so good.
I'll have seconds.
Another muffin?
No, orange juice.
Oh.
If you're crazy about beautiful Oriental rugs, come to Omid International and meet someone else who's just as crazy about these fine rugs. Actually, he's just plain crazy. He used to import these fine handmade rugs for other dealers in department stores. He did a nice business. Instead, he's selling the same high-quality rug at the same wholesale prices directly to the public. And now it's just a madhouse.
If I'm crazy enough to sell it to you at these low prices, you're crazy not to buy them.
Omid International, 9th and Brannan, San Francisco.
How do you noodle? Well, no matter how you noodle, more people enjoy noodling with Cup of Noodles, the deliciously original recipe that's much more than a soup. Remember, nobody noodles like Cup of Noodles from Nissan.
Hurry in for Circuit City's Super Sale and save with super low prices on super audio, video, and more. Enjoy super savings on this Sanyo cable-ready VCR with easy on-screen programming. Now just $219. And this Panasonic audio system packed with programmable CD player, double cassette deck, and more. Now a low $328. Hurry in for super savings. It's the Super Sale now at Circuit City.
Welcome to Circuit City, where service is state-of-the-art.
Welcome back to Mornings on 2. With our nation at war this morning, we thought it might be interesting to take a look at how the newspapers from around the area and around the state are reacting to it. And I have the headlines from the Alameda Times-Star here. Bullseye, quite simply put. The Contra Costa Times says the U.S. attacks. And the Oakland Tribune, probably the most succinct of all of the papers this morning regarding headlines, just simply war. Okay, now let's go to Terry with the rest of the news today. Terry?
Well, Steve, it's time to check now on local developments. A massive protest is going on in San Francisco at this hour. Let's go to Eric Green live on the scene. Eric?
Terry, this has been a much more peaceful demonstration than the last couple of days. What you're looking at right now is the corner of Larkin and Golden Gate, right kitty corner of the Federal Building, and there has been a circle, kind of a